Hi everybody, and welcome to my Unruly Housewife channel. Now, I have been polymer claying for 4 years now. I realised the other day, thought it was 2, but it was 4. And in all that time, I've only used this Fimo clay, really. That's pretty much the only thing I've ever used, apart from a brief foray into Cernit, which didn't have a happy ending. So, everybody online keeps saying you should try Premo, you should try Sculpey Premo like this. And so I thought, well, okay, you know what? I shall put aside my 4 years of brand dedication and loyalty to Fimo and see what happens when I use some Premo. Now, a kind lady sent me some free Premo to try, and I'm going to show you now. I'm going to tip the camera down and show you what happens when I try to make things, and just generally give you my impressions of what it's like to use Premo when you're used to Fimo. It's not a scientific study, it's a very personal point of view. If you want scientific advice or you know, more technical advice, that's the word I'm looking for, you should go and look on the Blue Bottle Tree, which is a website dedicated to all things polymer clay, or you should look at perhaps Cindy Leeds, your polymer clay tutor, here on YouTube, and I think she does have a website too. So anyway, I'll tip the camera forward and I'll show you things I've made and talk about the properties that I found in Premo and that I normally find with Fimo. See you in a moment. Okay, so here are the clays that we're talking about today, and the Fimo clays here are the ones that I've been using for the last 4 years, as I said. And you know, Fimo is a great clay. It's very strong, it sands down nicely, it looks good, and it's still flexible. I've found it, you know, a very good thing to work with. It's great for making canes and things, but I do find that conditioning it is exhausting, and I was getting very frustrated with coming upstairs with an idea of something I wanted to make and then having to spend ages conditioning my clay, because it can be extremely hard. So I decided, I'd heard that Premo was much easier to condition, and I decided to give it a go. The Premo that was given to me had like a limited set of colours and small blocks of clay like this. So I decided to make a small project and a cane to see how I got on with it. And can I say, first of all, that the conditioning of it was just a dream. It was so easy to condition and became soft really quickly, and that worried me because, you know, when I was using Cernit I found that way too soft, and when the Premo conditioned very quickly and became soft, I was worried. I thought maybe it won't hold detail, maybe I won't be able to cane with it. Anyway, I'll show you what I made. Now, the first thing I made was for a group that I'm in online, and it was they asked us to make something that was about New Year's celebrations, and I wanted to make something quirky, so I made this, which is a 2018 first footing box. First footing kit, and because I didn't have a lot of clay, I thought I'd make miniatures. Now, first footing is a tradition in the UK, where, and I don't know, it's probably other places, where the first person across the threshold of the house in a new year will bring with them some gifts that will ensure prosperity. Okay, so these are the gifts, if you can see those there, and they're all kind of miniatures, and I made those all with Premo. I made this little thing with Premo as well, obviously, and I found it really easy to work with. It took detail very, very well. I made like a little piece of bread. That's one of the things you're supposed to bring to the house. Evergreen, that's just holly, that wasn't hard to do. Again, you know, it cut out nicely. I do find sometimes with Premo that when you cut it out, it sort of leaves a little pushed down edge, which I haven't noticed with Fimo. But yeah, I mean, it was really good. I made a piece of coal, because that's one of the gifts that you meant to bring, so that people will be warm in the new year. Salt. I made a little salt cellar. I was slightly disappointed with this. I made discs of clay and then I piled them, and then I sanded it down after they were baked, and it sanded beautifully. This is varnished as well, but the bottom isn't. But what I didn't like about it was I felt that it did distort quite easily when I was making that stack. Now later on when I come to show you my canes, we'll talk about that more, but it's not too bad. And it was my, you know, when it's your first time with a new clay, you're not amazingly proficient. You're also supposed to bring coins, and I didn't have any silver clay, so I just used some of the glitter clay to make lucky coins. This bottle, oh my goodness, I tried to make a bottle of whiskey. It's supposed to bring whiskey over the threshold, that's one of the things. First I tried with this bottle, and I mixed in alcohol ink to the clear liquid Sculpey, which I already owned because I bought some, and oh dear, that is horrendous. It made a horrendous mess, like with bubbles. I don't know what that is. So I tried again. I was getting quite annoyed because it was using my bottles up, and I made this one. Now the colour, I can't blame Sculpey for the colour. It looks more like a Scottish drink that's called Iron Brew than actual whiskey. But the bubbles are a concern to me, and you know, a lot of people online have given me advice how to use the liquid Sculpey and not get bubbles, but I think I do become very frustrated with polymer clay companies because they seem to keep selling us products where the only way that we can get the best use out of them is to sort of go online and get loads of arcane knowledge from people who've been claying for years. And it seems to me that, you know, it would be better to just make a product that works than to have us have to do that. So that's my little rant on that. But yep, I found the Sculpey very easy to work with. I found it kept its shape really nicely. I put soft pastel dust on here, and that worked really well. I varnished them. All of them came out really nicely. So a really good show there by Premo, Sculpey Premo. For the modelling, I enjoyed using it, and you know what, I had so much more energy not having had to condition it a lot. The Sculpey Clear Liquid, I don't know, I think it needs work, or I think they need to give us better advice on using it, but I didn't enjoy that as much. The rest of it was really fun, and hey look, I invented something that I don't think existed before, which was the first footing box, and I not only invented it, I invented it in miniature. Now we come to the canes, and this is the cane I made. I didn't have a lot of clay to work with, so I made it really small, which probably wasn't a great idea. And I'm going to just go through bit by bit my feelings when I was making it. First of all, the Skinner blend. I tried to make a Skinner blend for these petals, and it wasn't playing. I don't know. I just found, compared to Fimo, it was jolly hard work trying to get it to go into a Skinner blend. And I almost gave up really, and I made a fan fold. Maybe I didn't make that thin enough, but just the result was not as pleasing as perhaps it might have been with Fimo, I felt. But you know, it's all experience, I'm sure. But that was my frustration with that. I then went ahead to make my flower, and because I didn't have a lot of clay, I only ended up with 5 petals, which isn't great because really 6 is so much nicer and more snug. But it gave me an opportunity to try and line up the petals with the middle, you know, in that kind of way. And that's sticking pretty well. But when I did it, they really did not want to stick. Now with Fimo, I could have put those in position and given them a little squeeze, and they would have stayed where I put them. But I found with the Premo, it's not nearly as sticky, and it was quite frustrating trying to hold them where I wanted them and put in the packing, which I always use like thin snakes of clay, so it makes kind of pixelated areas. And you know, sometimes it was creeping underneath. There's, you can see at the end of that one, that's actually one of the petals looks detached because they had crept underneath it. They just didn't want to hug to the centre, so that was quite annoying. On the other hand, look at those lovely white lines. They stayed really nice and crisp. And when I came to, I rested it before I reduced it, and then after I reduced it, I was quite impatient and I sliced it really quickly. And you know what? Props to Premo here, because even though the clay had been soft and pliable to manipulate and to work with, it made a really firm cane, and slicing it was great because the lack of stickiness and combined with the firmness meant that you could slice it really well, and I totally appreciated that. So it's a a bad cane in some ways, but that's probably just me and the lack of amount of clay. The actual thing itself, the material itself, I think is going to be a dream to work with once I get used to it. So that's my feelings about it. I hope you will let me know down below whether you've ever used both clays, what you found was the difference between them. After 4 years of using Fimo, I'm now severely tempted to treat myself to some Premo, because it's just fun to decide to make something, condition your clay up pretty quickly, and then make whatever is in your head, rather than have to set aside an hour before you've even started. On the other hand, the Premo I've got is probably pretty new, and you may be able to tell me tales of Premo that wasn't conditioned either. I don't know. Please join in, please let me know what you think, and yeah, I think I'm going to treat myself to some Premo and maybe even shift over to it eventually, but I will definitely be using 2 kinds of clay in the future, and I will not just limit myself to one brand. Thank you for watching. I love you all. Bye bye.